A man arrested for violating parole was later linked to the 1981 killing of a woman in Texas. On December 14, 1981, 81-year-old Virginia White was discovered murdered in her residence on the 4100 block of Fury Street in Dallas. Her daughter, Evelyn Weathersby, informed authorities that she grew worried after her mother failed to answer phone calls, prompting her to visit the home. Evelyn noted the front door was partially open and the screen door unlatched. Initially, family members saw nothing out of place upon entering, and police suspected Virginia had died of natural causes. However, the Dallas County medical examiner identified neck injuries indicative of strangulation. A subsequent autopsy confirmed she had been assaulted, and her death ruled a homicide. After the autopsy findings, investigators revisited Virginia's home once it was released by the family, who had already searched the premises for missing cash. Relatives reported her wallet and $250 stolen. Investigators could not collect fingerprints from her bedroom because family members had disturbed the area by removing bedding and rifling through drawers. No suspects were identified at the time, no credible leads emerged, and the case went cold. Nearly 43 years later, a breakthrough occurred. In May 2024, Dallas detectives Andrea Isom and David Grubbs reopened cold cases and located untested sexual assault swabs from Virginia's case. DNA analysis, unavailable as an investigative method in 1981, was requested, yielding an unknown male profile entered into CODIS, Combined DNA Index System. On November 22, 2024, the system matched the DNA to 83-year-old Willie Lee Jones. Detectives showed Virginia's grandson a photo of Jones. He did not recognize Jones as someone his grandmother knew. Virginia, a widow at the time, reportedly had no romantic involvements, according to family. Jones was arrested on January 16, 2025, for a parole violation tied to an assault charge. During questioning, he denied knowing Virginia or having any involvement in her death, adding he would not have intercourse with a woman of that age. Detectives secured a warrant for a DNA sample, which confirmed a match to the 2024 profile, definitively connecting him to the crime. Jones, who was 40 when Virginia died, now faces a capital murder charge and remains jailed in Dallas County. Authorities have not disclosed further details about evidence, motive, or the investigation. No bond has been set, and it is unknown if Jones has legal representation. A court date remains pending. The arrest brought mixed emotions to Virginia's family, who endured decades of unresolved grief. Her daughter expressed gratitude for technological advancements and law enforcement's persistence, stating the development finally provided answers after years of anguish. New forensic analyses of DNA gathered from a cigarette butt and the interior of a Chevy Blazer assisted investigators in solving the horrific 1997 double homicide of a Stevens County, Washington, mother and her daughter. In the early hours of June 27, 1997, firefighters rushed to a trailer fire at the Panorama Mobile Home Park in Colville, Washington. By 4 a.m., the trailer's roof had caved in and the structure was fully ablaze. After extinguishing the flames, crews recovered the remains of 29-year-old Marlene Emerson inside, but her 12-year-old daughter Cassie Emerson was missing. An autopsy revealed Marlene's spine had been severed and her throat slashed prior to the fire. Investigators concluded she had been murdered, her home intentionally set on fire, and Cassie abducted. A $5,000 reward was offered for information about Cassie, who was thought to hold critical clues about her mother's death. A month later, on July 27th, Cassie's body was discovered in a wooded area near Orrin Rice Road, south of Colville, with knife wounds to her neck. Investigators learned Marlene had ties to members of the Iron Horseman Motorcycle Club in Colville, an outlaw group affiliated with the Hells Angels. The club was implicated in a large methamphetamine operation that plagued eastern Washington in the late 1990s before being dismantled by law enforcement. Some members reportedly resented Marlene due to her involvement in a burglary and cooperation with police in another case, labeling her a snitch. Marlene had reported escalating harassment, including bullet holes shot into her trailer, and vowed to a friend she would not be driven from town. Her mother later told police Cassie had memorized her phone number, promising to call if danger arose, and admitted feeling afraid. Multiple witnesses emerged, with investigators focusing on Charles Tatum after an associate claimed he'd boasted about dragging the girl away and killing her. Tatum, linked to the same circle as Marlene, was described as unstable and aggressive, alleging Marlene owed his friend money. Witnesses stated Tatum left a residence with a companion in a Chevy Blazer on the night of the crime and returned the next morning with burns and a bloody knife he claimed was used to gut an animal. The companion later died in a plane crash. Police located the Chevy Blazer Tatum allegedly drove, finding bloodstains on the seat, window, and a cigarette butt in the ashtray, along with cassette tapes bearing his fingerprints. Evidence was preserved, and in 2009, the car window was tested for blood, matching Cassie's DNA in 2013 after her body was exhumed. The case stalled for over 20 years due to technological limitations and witness fears of retaliation. In 2024, 27 years after the murders, forensic experts re-examined preserved evidence. Washington State Patrol scientist Brittany Wright identified Cassie's DNA on the Blazer's center console and detected both Tatum's DNA and traces of Cassie's on the cigarette butt, suggesting he smoked it after encountering her. Stevens County prosecutor Erica George cited DNA advancements enabling new testing of previously unanalyzed evidence. Charles Tatum, now 73, was charged with the murders. Prosecutors sought to detain him without bail, citing his violent history. George noted Tatum had no prior indication of impending charges, writing, "He will now face the possibility of dying in prison if convicted, with full awareness of the evidence and witnesses against him. A conviction could result in life imprisonment." George praised law enforcement's decades-long dedication to justice, stating, "The Stevens County Prosecuting Attorney's Office remains committed to holding violent offenders accountable." Utah authorities have apprehended a suspect connected to the fatal stabbing of a man over 2 decades ago, a case that remained unresolved until advances in forensic technology revived the investigation. On August 6, 2005, the girlfriend of 33-year-old Jason Reuter discovered his body at his residence in the Salt Lake City area. Jason, a father of 2, had sustained multiple stab wounds, and the Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office determined his death was a homicide. Investigators found no evidence of forced entry or clear motive, leaving detectives and Jason's family with scant leads. Bloodstains were identified on a kitchen seat cushion and a basement stairwell, alongside a bent, bloodied knife containing DNA profiles from both Jason and an unknown individual. A witness reported hearing a confrontation at Jason's home, including one man demanding, "Pay me back," followed by Jason insisting he owed nothing. Jason's family erected highway billboards pleading for information, while the Unified Police Department offered a $5,000 reward for tips leading to a conviction. Despite relentless efforts, the case stalled for years. In 2015, the investigation was transferred to the Salt Lake County Cold Case Unit, where detectives pursued leads for another decade. A breakthrough came in January 2025, when updated forensic methods identified a DNA match. On January 23, 53-year-old Mark Nelson Munoz was arrested on homicide charges. Crime scene DNA from 2005 matched a sample collected during Munoz's prior arrest in another state. Flagged in 2024 by the Utah Bureau of Forensic Services, locating Munoz proved difficult due to his transient lifestyle, lack of a cell phone, and minimal contact with acquaintances. Sheriff Rosie Rivera stated, "This arrest reflects the unwavering dedication of our detectives to secure justice for Jason Reuter. We hope this step brings his family some solace as we work to unravel the truth." She emphasized the ongoing nature of the investigation, noting detectives continue gathering evidence to strengthen the case. A motive remains unclear, and Munoz has refused to cooperate. At a press conference, Jason's sisters, Nikki Price and Stephanie Pershon, and his son, Andrew Reuter, shared their relief. Nikki remarked, "This could have stalled, but they persisted until it was resolved." Stephanie described the arrest as lifting a heavy burden after 20 years of anguish. Andrew, who was 12 when his father died, likened the news to *10 years of therapy at once, easing years of anger. He recalled bonding with his father over music, particularly the band Alien Ant Farm, which remains dear to him. "He was an incredible person. Father, brother, uncle, son, you name it," Andrew added. Police in Gwinnett County, Georgia, have filed charges against a jailed individual in relation to a long unsolved homicide that occurred nearly 4 years prior. On the afternoon of July 20, 2019, Michelle Smalls visited her 61-year-old brother, Ray Niels, at his home on 475 Lexington Drive in Georgia after he failed to answer phone calls. Upon entering the residence, Michelle observed significant bloodstains on the floors, walls, and bathroom shower curtain before discovering Ray's lifeless body. Michelle asserted that her brother likely knew his assailant, stating, "I know it was someone he knew because he didn't let strangers into his house." Sergeant Micah Hegwood, a cold case investigator with the Gwinnett County Police Department, explained that while authorities initially classified Ray's death as a homicide based on injuries to his neck, the medical examiner's office initially deemed it natural. However, an employee at Bird and Flanagan Funeral Home later raised suspicions, prompting a second autopsy. Hegwood recounted, "The body was released to the funeral home, but staff noticed irregularities in the wounds and alerted us, saying, 'This looks like something else.' The follow-up examination confirmed Ray had been murdered." Eddie Reeves, then chief investigator for the Gwinnett County Medical Examiner's Office, noted Ray had pre-existing medical conditions and medications that could have exacerbated bleeding, complicating the initial assessment. "He might have had clotting issues, leading to heavier bleeding than usual," Reeves stated. For years, the case remained unresolved, leaving Ray's family in anguish. His niece, Ashley Haynes, shared, "It's been agonizing not knowing what happened or who was responsible. You don't know who to trust or why no one came forward." A breakthrough emerged when neighbors provided tips to the family, which they passed to investigators. Ashley recalled, "People in the neighborhood pieced together clues and began calling us with theories." These leads directed police to 50-year-old Carmen Marie Hunt, who was already incarcerated for a separate 2022 stabbing. Investigators reviewed security footage, conducted fresh interviews, and reanalyzed fingerprints from Ray's home, ultimately linking Hunt to the crime through forensic evidence. Hegwood stated they suggested Carmen Hunt might be involved, adding that a bloody fingerprint at the scene matched Hunt's, and the same type of large kitchen knife was used in both attacks. Despite the arrest, Ashley acknowledged the family's lingering grief. "I don't know if we'll ever feel relief, because we lost someone needlessly. There's some peace, yes, but," she trailed off. Hunt remains detained at Gwinnett County Jail, facing charges for both the 2022 incident and Ray's homicide. Authorities have not disclosed a motive or how Hunt and Ray might have been connected, though Ashley speculated, "I think it was drug-related. That's how she knew him. I'll never fully have closure because I'll always wonder." A former Everett, Washington, resident was arrested in Las Vegas 36 years after the killing of Mary Ann Daniels, whose body was discovered in her apartment. On February 1, 1989, the 31-year-old Daniels, a disabled woman residing in a transitional housing facility on the 2100 block of Hoyt Avenue in Everett, was found deceased when the property manager entered her unit to collect rent. A subsequent autopsy concluded she had been strangled with 3 ligatures, a bra, purse strap, and electrical cord, around January 28, 1989. At the time, police interviewed 3 individuals: the property manager, a former romantic partner of Mary Ann, and her neighbor Joseph Andrew Jacques, who had moved into the same apartment complex on January 9, 1989. Jacques denied having any relationship with Mary Ann beyond casual neighborly interactions. Forensic DNA technology was limited in 1989, and despite investigative efforts, no suspect was identified, leaving the case unresolved. Decades later, in 2022, a genetic genealogist used familial DNA analysis to link Joseph Jacques to a DNA profile extracted from blood evidence on the ligatures. Everett police collaborated with Las Vegas authorities to covertly collect a DNA sample from Jacques, who was living in Nevada. Detectives retrieved a discarded beer bottle he drank from at a restaurant, and testing confirmed a match to the crime scene DNA. On January 25, 2025, 61-year-old Jacques was arrested in Clark County, Nevada, and awaits extradition to Snohomish County, where prosecutors seek $2 million bail. Jacques' criminal history includes only a 1992 reckless driving misdemeanor in King County. Everett Police Chief John DeRoos praised the resolution, stating, "Our investigators diligently pursue justice for victims of violent crimes in our community," and highlighted Detective Susan Logathetti's persistence. Everett Mayor Cassie Franklin echoed this sentiment, commending law enforcement's dedication and expressing sympathy for Mary Ann's family. Mary Ann's sister, Sandy Daniels London released a statement thanking investigators. "I appreciate all the hard work and dedication that Detective Logothetti and others put into finding the person who ended the life of my sister." She reflected on Mary Ann's struggles, noting she had been placed in transitional housing by a social worker who should have protected her, instead putting her in danger. Mary Ann's brother, Terry Lee Saline, described her as trusting, carefree, and always believing the good in people, adding, "She has never been forgotten by her family."